It should be working now. Alright, how's it going, everybody? I know it was taking forever to get the stream started, but I was having issues, but yeah, this is it. 60K subscribers, and I'm officially not a teenager anymore. I had other plans going on for my birthday, but they fell through, unfortunately, but that doesn't mean I can't celebrate it, so I thought, you know what? Why don't I just do a random stream? Now, the way this stream is going to work is it's going to be kind of like a live Q&A, and I just do random things, like maybe fire up a game or two, and you guys can ask me any questions you have for me. Because it's been at least 8 months since I did a Q&A video, and to be perfectly honest, Q&A videos Q&A response videos are such a pain in the ass to edit, in my opinion. Like, especially the last Q&A response video I did like 8 years ago. That was such a pain. And it looks like we already got our first super chat donation. However, it's not showing up on the alert feed just yet. Should show up in a minute, right over here. So, yeah. Oh, the lighting, I know, because it's like super bright out. Oh, and there it is. Brad Harrington. Thank you so much for the birthday donation of $2. Really helps out the channel, I'm telling you. So anyway, I might as well go over some updates. I know it usually this time of year, from late June to early July, I'm really busy, with family, birthdays, stuff like that. And of course, July 4th is coming up, and even though the Philadelphia fireworks got canceled, I don't know if the ones in my local area in Lower Providence got canceled. I always go to that show like every year, and there's another one I watch from my house that goes on in, I think, Bridgeport. But if those are canceled, I'll just go to Phantom Fireworks in Upland and satisfy my firework need. So, yeah, and yeah, notice the cap. I'm also wearing the best shirt in the entire world, the Standard Rare of the World shirt. It actually says so right over here, if you can see it. It's probably mirrored on the webcam, but whatever. So, alright, Kevin Wang's got a good question. This is a question I've been asked quite a few times. Am I going to do engines of Septa on the Acela 64? No, I'm not, because they're too new. They've only been in service for almost 1 to 2 years. They barely have any history behind them. It'd be like Amtrak Guy 365 doing engines of Amtrak on the Chargers. There's like nothing behind them right now. The only thing that they are doing right now is just collecting dust in the yard because, Septa's still not under regular service yet. In fact, my line, the Norristown's still suspended. Believe it or not. I don't know why, but it is because of COVID. But hopefully they should, and everything, all the lines that are still running, like Lansdale, Warminster, they're all still on weekend schedules, so the Acela 64s aren't doing anything, which kind of sucks, but oh well. Let's see. Southern Pacific MT4 or the K2 Mountain type. Ooh, these are both very interesting extinct mountain engines. I really don't know which one I would go with because I like both. The K2 is kind of like a shorter version of the J when it's streamlined, because some of them were streamlined and they look exactly like a J, just with one less trailing truck. And what else? Oh yeah, and the MT4, they're just interesting to look at. Oh, and another donation by Trainman3985. Thanks for the $5. But yeah, I don't know which one I would choose. I guess the MT4. I mean, I have the MT4 on Train Z from K&L Trains. Shout out to them, by the way. They make some top quality content. I like anything Eastern Coast Steam, I get from them because there's nobody else. Train Traveler, did you hear about the derailment that happened in Duluth, Georgia, in front of the Southeast Railway Museum? Actually, unless I don't know if that's the one. I don't know if you're talking about the one with 211, because I know 211, which is an intermodal that goes on the Reading line, that derailed in Georgia because it hit an idiot trucker that didn't know his butt from the hole in the ground. So, yeah, I don't know if that's the one you're talking about, but all I know is there's been at least one derailment in Georgia that recently. That's all I know. What type of train? West Rail 642, the atomic train, asks type of trains are in your area. Well, at the moment, 39G, also known as H79 at this point, would be making its way down the line into Abrams Yard. And another donation by Brett Harrington. Thanks for the $5. I'm a fan of your railway disasters. I learn a lot from this. I'm a big fan of the big boy locomotive. Big fan, big boy, big fan, big... Try saying that 5 times fast. Big fan, big boy, big fan, big boy. I guess it's not that hard. But yeah, glad you're enjoying those videos. And speaking of the big boy, as much as... I mean, it's a good engine, but I have to get this out of the way. 4014 is a little bit overrated. I mean, it's why 3985 got retired, but, you know, whatever. Either way, I would like to see it in the future, if I ever go out west. But obviously I can't go now because, you know, COVID. I don't trust airlines. Amtrak's been reducing service, and also I'm not financially ready for that kind of a journey. That's why I'd rather wait till I hit like 100,000 subscribers to see if I can actually pull it off. Because I tried doing a similar celebration where I would hit every single Railfan, every single Septa line when I hit 1,000 subscribers like 2 or 3 years ago. But I quickly strayed away from that goal because a lot of the lines, particularly the Kingwood line, are just way too hard to Railfan because of location and low traffic. Excuse me. Nerfmaster 11 111 Lamborghini. What is your favorite Class 1 freight railroad? Well, if you're talking about current railroads, that's Norfolk Southern. I mean, that's a no-brainer. So, yeah. Definitely NS. I mean, they screw me one way or another at times, but, you know, hey. At least they're better than... At least they don't derail every day like CSX. Oh, jeez. Max Cito. What do you think... What do you think of seeing the wreck site of 601 today? Like when I go by, I haven't been by Frankfurt Junction in a long time. Mainly not just because of COVID, but you know, there's not. When it comes to Railfan, the corridor, it's just not as interesting anymore, unless you go out to like Levittown or Holmesburg to get Conrail shared assets. But yeah, I mean, I still get that feeling, that eerie feeling when I go over that curve. I mean, I always, you know, say a prayer to myself every time I go over that curve in memory of the victims. But yeah, I haven't been over that that exact spot in a while. Oop. Bump the mic. So. Lava the Wolf. Yeah, Lava the Wolf sums up CSX best. CSX, how tomorrow crashes and burns. Or no, here's a better one. CSX, how tomorrow moves because we derailed today. Ooh, Josh Brony. Oh, this is a good one. Q2. Yeah, the first question he asked, favorite documentary besides Hinton. I'd probably be. I feel like I do better with every documentary, but I think my current favorite one, other than Hinton, is the 1278 one, because of how much information I had to sink in there. His second question, oh, this is a good one. Least favorite documentary. Ooh. There have been some, I've made some really bad videos in the past, even the documentaries, but probably the one I can't stand watching anymore is, oh crap, what's a really, really bad one? I'm trying to think. because it's been a while since I've watched some of the older crap. I would have to say the first version of the Silverliner Fire video, which has since been which I have since taken down and replaced with a new one. Which was, if for those of you that did watch it, it was called Silverliner Fire 9 years later. That video, it was way too opinionated. I didn't know what the hell I was doing when I made it. I was just being a dumb idiot foamer. But the new one, the Silverliner Fire 10 years later video, is a much bigger improvement. Plus, there was way more info that I found out, that I didn't know. Because at first I thought the heater overheated. No, it wasn't. That heater was just filthy. That's exactly why you gotta clean everything. That's exactly why my family is all clean freaks. It runs in the family. My uncle's a clean freak, especially considering he sells used cars. My mom's a clean freak because of her asthma. They're all clean freaks, mainly on my mom's side. If CSX disappeared, would I notice anything different? No. Except C746, allowing Train Fan 5202, speaking of which, who's in the chat. If CSX disappeared, then yeah, he would be able to sleep in. Or Conrail Shared Assets would take over the line. Now, speaking of C746, I want to talk about that train. Because there used to be a lot more trains. There used to be a couple more locals that used the Stony Creek branch line. Not the one in Marcus Hook. Just thought I'd say that. They're spelled differently. One's got an E and one doesn't. But the one in Lansdale, there used to be a couple other trains that went down there. I think one of the symbols was B738. If you look up John P. If you look up Oaks Model Railroad on YouTube, you can find some of those really older videos of some of the other trains that went through. I was really, really young when those trains were going through, so I don't remember them. But yeah, there were C746 is definitely the last one left, and they've been actually trying to get rid of that local for a while. Mainly giving it away to Conrail Shared Assets, because recently C764 and C770 were abolished in favor of giving the jobs to Conrail Shared Assets. But with C746, either Conrail Shared Assets told them to piss off, even though they would want more work, or they just told them it was flat out impossible, because the closest base for CSAO in the Woodburn area is Morrisville. And what that would mean, they would have to come all over the bridge in Morrisville, back up onto the connector near Langhorne, go into the yard, pick up whatever they need, turn the power around, and go back on the Morrisville line. It just won't work. It's CSX's yard anyway, so they can't really get rid of the train. And someone on Facebook I talked with even suggested, oh, why doesn't PN go all the way out from Lansdale to pick it up? Not possible. Because 8212 would be the only engine I know of, because 5342 and 8212 both have cab signals for Septa, but 8212, it might have cab signals for Norfolk Southern, but 5342 probably doesn't. The only other engine that had cab signals for NS on PN's fleet was 8211, which is, dead. But, I mean, that would be nice to see PN going that far, but I don't think they'd be willing to pull that off. Not at all. Aiden Beam. By the way, if I miss your question because the chat's going too fast, I do apologize. A lot of people are asking random questions. If you had a choice to Big Boy 4014, if you had a choice to restore Southern Pacific 4460 or Southern Pacific 4294, which one would you choose? I honestly don't know. Probably 4460. What is your West Rail or jeez, I don't know. I can't say West today for whatever reason. West Rail 642, the Atomic Train S. What is your opinion on the Erie Lackawanna GP7s? They look pretty nice. Ooh, this is a good one. Aiden, is it Aiden Beam? Yeah, Aiden Beam. What is your favorite Amtrak wreck? Is it the Big Bayou wreck? That has to be the Chase Maryland wreck and the video itself. Mainly because not only was, it was my first documentary. I didn't know what I was doing at the moment. But Chase, Maryland, even today, I still find new information about it, which interests me. Like seriously, I even found, believe it or not, I was uh I was looking around. I remember when I was looking up photos or even video of Ricky Gates, the Conrail engineer involved. I was looking around and I stumbled upon I think it was a trained web forum feed that was asking what happened to Ricky Gates. And I did actually find that Rick actually did respond to that uh, form, informing him what he's doing now and what happened. I might be able to pull that up. Give me a second. Um, because when I found what happened, it was pretty interesting. Yeah, here we go. It was train orders. I think it was. Was it? No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't train orders. What was it? What was it? Crap. I forget how I searched it up. Baltimore Sun. No, it wasn't that. Oh, here it is. It was from CS Trains, which is a magazine. Um, and yeah, this is it. Holy crap. See if I can get the display capture working on this. Hold on a minute. I gotta add it into the list first. Just give me a minute. I'm just playing around with the stream tools because I gotta add the display capture on. Here we go. Here we go. Add source. Done. Alright, so this is the dash, this is the screen, this is my screen I'm sharing right now. I'm going to go to the website, and here it is. This is what I found. Basically, this chap was asking, does anyone know what happened to Gates? And sure enough, that's the real Gates right here. He says that he's alive and well. He's a bit leery on the subject or opinions on it, and personally, I don't blame him. He screwed up big time, and there's enough to blame to go through, and drugs, drinking will be a problem of any industry, which that's true. He faced a total of 100 years in prison. Wow, he was sentenced to 100? I thought it was 5. Goodness me. With the state of Maryland and the feds, but he did around 4 to 5, he did 4 years in total, and worked as a drug and alcoholism counselor. Basically, those kind of people are like, you ever have those assemblies in like high school and stuff where you have like a person telling you the dangers of like drinking and driving and stuff like that? Ignore the ads. You know, like those kind of people. I even did a news report on one person that came to talk about drinking and driving a while ago during high school. But yeah, that's what he ended up doing for about 5 years, and now he works as an operating engineer running heavy equipment. Probably with I would only imagine that's like with a construction company. But he still misses the railroad and still loves trains. Now here's the thing. As much as I hated what he did back then, when I looked back on this post, you know, especially when I first found it, I began to feel kind of sorry for the guy. I mean, he's sorry for what he did. You know, he knows he screwed up, and we can only hope something like this never happens again. And if he and there's probably a 0.1% chance he's watching. If he is watching, which I doubt he is, you know, I don't. I mean, I don't like what you did, but at least I know you're sorry. Let's just put it that way. So, yeah, I just thought I'd show you that because that was quite interesting finding that article. But yeah, no sponsorship from eBay and all those other ads on that site. But either way, when I found that, that was quite an interesting find. And that's the thing. Even it's not just Chase, Maryland. A lot of the videos that I do, even after releasing the official documentary, I still find new stuff or new footage. I even have a DVD downstairs showing the cleanup effort, you know, from January 4th, the night of January 4th, all the way up to at least January 6th of them cleaning up the wreckage and rescuing victims. it was quite pretty interesting. And speaking of train wreck videos, I mean, I'm not really bothered to be going downstairs to get you the Chase Maryland DVD. However, I will show you another set that I have. Another DVD. It's this thing. You probably saw it in my YouTube story. Let me But yeah, I mean, I was just, I was basically messing around with it, like banging my head from boredom. But this DVD, I actually planned to use footage from it for the 1278 video. Particularly, it was just a 30-second clip of the leaky check valve spraying steam toward the cab and soaking the camera of whoever it was that was taping the video. However, Mainline Motion Pictures, who is owned by Highball Productions and is now presently merged with Pentrex, I sent them an email asking about the footage, and even though the footage is like really old from 1995, I couldn't get I couldn't get the permission to use the footage. Isn't that sad? However, despite that, even though it did put a serious dent in the usable footage I could have for that documentary, I got a hold of Diverging Clear Video. Definitely check out the channel. Shout out to them. I met this was a YouTuber I met during 6/11 at Strasbourg when I was chasing it. She was at Cherry Hill Junction. We had a good chat with each other, and sure enough, I picked up the I found her website and gave her a call. And when I heard the voice, I was like, "You seem familiar." So I asked her about the footage, and she just said credit it as Kurt Jensen's work. And sure enough, I was allowed to use the video. So, yay! But yeah, this even showed a lot of other accidents I didn't even know about. There were only at least one or two incidents that I knew were on here, such as the 1984 incident when 611 was pulling an excursion and a switch caused several coaches to derail. 611 was unharmed. It passed the switch way before the derailment happened. And then the Ringling Brothers wreck in Montana, which I would only imagine would be, or no, it wasn't Montana, it was in Florida. Durr. Which I can only imagine. If it happened in Florida, it had to have been CSX, because CSX had to contract for that train right up until the Ringling Bros Circus ceased to exist. Then there's one incident on this DVD that I honestly have no explanation as to what happened. It was one where it was the last clip on the DVD where it was literally a tanker that was sitting in a yard all by itself, and it just spontaneously caught fire. I looked everywhere on the internet to find out what happened. It happened in September of '87. I looked everywhere. I couldn't find anything, and I'm like, how the hell does a tanker just literally spontaneously catch fire? The only explanation I could really come up with, I guess, because I saw flames coming out of the bottom, kind of like what happened with the Souliner 4 that caught fire in Glenside 144. So I can only imagine there must have been a breach under the tanker, considering the pattern of the flames. But either way, it was like I wasn't surprised at the fire or impressed by the size. I was just sitting there scratching my head, like what? How does a steel container just rupture itself like that? Like, why? Yeah, I think I can't pronounce your name. I'm sorry. I think he came up with the best solution. Aliens. It was aliens, man. It's the aliens. They come from space up above, man. Oh man. But yeah, that was weird. What else was on here? There were a couple. The only other the only wreck that it did cover that I already videoed was the Silver Springs derailment, and all the footage was almost exactly the same as the one used in Velocity Runaway Trains. It was almost exactly the same. I don't know if it was the same same person that filmed it, but either way, I was like, whatever. Metro North Rider 477. Have you ever rode a Septa Souliner 5 or a Septa Push-Pull set? I've ridden a lot of Souliner 5s, a lot. It's a pretty cozy ride. I always try and go shotgun by getting the seat right, the front window right, the seat right by the front window next to the cab because foamer. But as for push pulls, I haven't ridden that many. However, I have ridden them a little. Before COVID happened, I did started running them, riding them a little more often because whenever I was rail fanning in the Philadelphia area, I would always have the like. Let's say if I was in Philly and the Norristown line is suspended for whatever reason, well, no problem. I could just hop on a train like 1565 and take the push pull all the way back home. In fact, that's actually what I did once. I was rail fanning in Temple University to catch a lot of the push pulls, including the Mark lease set from. Yeah, we got Mark cars back on Septa. Shock. But that's only because of a dispute with PennDOT with the. Dude, what was it? What happened? It was some dispute over the Pennsylvania Turnpike or something. I don't know what the hell it was, but yeah, I was catching those. And I thought since 1565 would be the only push pull I wouldn't catch at Temple, I thought, you know what? I'll just board onto it at I forget which station I boarded it at. I think it was 30th Street. So I thought, you know what? Screw it. I'll just take that to get home. And that's what I did. Yeah, it took 1565. It had, I forget which engine it was leading. I think it was 911, I think it was. Yeah. The one with the American flag on the side, probably done for an obvious reason. But I've also ridden them quite a few times when they had the AEM7 still on there. In fact, the first one I rode had 2305, which is my favorite of the Septa toasters because that's the first one I saw. No, it wasn't the first one I saw. 2302 was the first one I saw. But it was the first one I rode behind, and it was the one I saw the most often. So I have ridden the Silverliner 5s countless times. The 4s I've ridden more often, though, because there's more of them. But as for the push pulls, not much, but I definitely will be taking them more often in the future. Because even though I live in Norristown, why would I take 1565, which goes to Thorndale? Well, here's the thing. I would get off at Bryn Mawr, which is the first stop for the train, walk all the way down to the Bryn Mawr station for the high-speed line, and take the high-speed line back to Norristown. Or, excuse me, slow-speed line, because they're still going 50 miles an hour. Gotta get my facts straight. Oh, man. I still can't believe... I still can't believe that joke isn't as widespread as it should be in the especially in the Septa rail fan community. Because really, my mom's boyfriend, even though he's been he hasn't been working for Septa for at least a year or two, he's still surprised that they still haven't risen the speed back to 70 miles an hour. And we got another donation by NASCAR Stop Motion Productions. Happy birthday, dude. July 8th is my birthday. Lol. Oh, how about that? The only birthday I celebrate in July is my dad's, because he's 2 days after the 4th of July, and since he's a Brit, he does not celebrate 4th of July at all. And I think we know why. But he does. But I remember when I was little, he would still take me out to like firework shows, particularly the one in Lower Providence, which is a local town where I live. I've forgotten how many times I went to that show. I went to that a lot. And sometimes to diversify, here's a funny story actually. Speaking of fireworks shows, there was one I went to, I think in Pottstown with my dad took us there, and they didn't have a proper parking lot ready to go, so we had to park our car. In my dad's case, it was a Prius, which is, keep in mind, a pretty light and small, hatchback. So we parked in. We had to park in a field, and after the fireworks were over, we realized that because the ground, which was wet from a storm that happened a couple days ago, my dad's car, literally sunk into the ground, and he was stuck. Like he couldn't get out. And keep in mind, it was the rear tires that were stuck in the mud, and the Prius is front wheel drive, so he couldn't pull himself out. And we tried asking everybody to give us a hand, and all of them were usually like white, a lot of rich white couples going, "Oh no, I gotta go home to my family" and stuff. Like a lot of people were rude. Like they just either they didn't even they said, oh, they were too busy, even though they didn't. even though they had a car strong enough to push us out, or even worse, they just completely ignored us. But then there was this one Mexican guy with like 5 or 7 kids and he came right up and said, "You want to push it out with the Jeep? You want to push it out with the Jeep?" And sure enough, he was literally the only guy that actually was able to that actually offered his service. We didn't even have to ask him. He was literally, God bless him, he was able to push us out. It left a really big dent on the back bumper of the car, on my dad's car. But either way, that Jeep pushed it right out like it was nothing. So yeah, I wonder how he's doing now, that guy. God bless him. And he could have just said, "Oh, I gotta take the kids home," because it was like almost 11 at night. But no, he flat out, right out, just asked us out to push it right out. But yeah. I still can't believe I remember that. That was like 5 or 6 years ago. I was really, really young, and I still remember that. Usually my memory sucks, but jeez. That was a really fun night. But yeah, that's a thing in Pennsylvania. A lot of people, a lot of people up here are pretty, a lot of people in the East. I'll just say that there's a lot of a-holes that live up here, because it's like down in the South. Everybody's like, "Oh, how you do, man?" Well, down up in the East, especially in PA, we're like, "Who the hell are you? Get the hell out of here." So. Andrew Lieb, what is your opinion on the new Acela Express, the Avelia Liberty? I mean, I like the design, even though it's just a TGV Americanized, but I'm not really too impressed, and I also think it's kind of a waste of money. Because first off, the horn, a lot of people say it's a European horn. It's actually a Nathan product, but all I think they did was they took one of the low tone chimes off a K5LA and just called it that. And I really think they should replace it, but not because it sounds bad, but because at speed, because it's it's not as loud as most horns, that's gonna warble like crazy at 100 miles an hour. That's why trains like the S1, which was on Blueprint allowed to go 156 miles an hour. That's why it was given a Leslie A200 rather than a Penzi 3 chime, because steam whistles would have that exact same problem. They'd warble at speed, the sound, which would effectively kill the volume. So I think that would be a problem with the Avelia Liberty. I almost said ACS 64. Jeez. But yeah, I feel like that would be a problem with the Avelia. But at the same time, the Acela, which is only as old as me, they put them in service around 2000. So I'm about as old as those sets. They've been used and abused for years, though, and to be honest, they were almost as used as often as the toasters, and yet those things lasted like 30 years. It's crazy. But they are definitely falling apart, the old Acelas. One even had like its coupling snap at 3 different spots in the train, and they were stalled on a bridge until they could pull them out. Ooh, we got another donation by Clay the Diamond 11. Will you do a documentary about the Amtrak crash in 1995 where it fell off a bridge because of sabotage? Oh, I know which one you're talking about. That's the Palo Verde incident. They still don't know who caused it, though. Some sources say neo-Nazis, but I don't even know if they'd be willing to pull that off, those skinheads. But since it happened in Arizona, anything could happen. But anyway, back to the Avelia. Another thing that I don't like about is it's gonna be like the British APT and the Acela, because they advertised on Amtrak's promotional video about it that it'll offer 220 miles per hour service. Yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with that, because the FRA ain't going to allow you to go 150 miles an hour at most, and half the time you're going to be going between 50 and 125 because of slower traffic. The Avelia is never going to go it's never going to go 200 miles an hour. The infrastructure of the corridor is just not going to support it. It just won't work. So that's why I say it's going to be like the APT without the motion sickness crap, and the Acela, where it will never go its speed potential of 200 miles an hour. It'll just be restricted to at least 125. NASCAR stop motion productions donated again. Major oof, lol. Yeah, I know, right? Sometimes I just don't understand. Like a lot of higher ups that come up with these ideas, not just Amtrak but NS as well, they clearly have no idea how to run a railroad. Especially NS. There's actually a funny story I want to tell about on the that happened on the Morrisville line not long ago. And trust me, when you hear what happened, you're gonna laugh. You guys are gonna laugh. So there's 520. It's a coal train that comes out of Reading. Ooh, another donation. What is your opinion on the new Pennsylvania T1 that's being built? Oh my gosh, I am ecstatic. I can't wait for that. They're actually ahead of schedule since they found that tender that's going to be used for 5550. But anyways, back to the story I was going to tell about on the Morrisville line. So 520 is a coal train, comes out of the Reading, uses Reading and Northern coal hoppers, and goes all the way down to the U.S. Steel plant in Morrisville. So, guess what the power was? One lonely SD70 Ace. Now keep in mind, the SD70 Ace, that's a good locomotive. It's one of EMD's best. But it was pulling almost 90 to 100 fully loaded coal cars. Yeah, that's not enough. And sure enough, now for those of you that don't know, and which is probably all of you, leading into CP King from Ford, which is where they connect with Septa, there's a very minimal incline. It's about, I'd say it's like 1.1. I mean, it's not steep by any stretch of the imagination, but it is, if a train doesn't have enough power on it, it's definitely going to stall. And sure enough, after clearing Septa, it indeed stalled somewhere between CP King, right by Target, a spot I usually sit out at, and Ford Street in Norristown. Now, if COVID never happened, I can only imagine the face of Septa Desk 3 hearing this. He'd be like, "What are you doing?" So it was stuck there it got stuck there at around 6, and eventually they had to back it up all the way into Abrams Yard because they couldn't make it to CP King. They had to back 520 all the way up into Abrams Yard to let 21E through because 21E was running late. Like he was getting, because the thing is between King and Morrisville, it's all single track, not counting the sidings, like at CP King. And then that made 21E pass by Valley Forge because I know a guy that always sits out there. It ended up passing Forge at 10 in the morning, which is like 3 hours late, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And then it caused 26T to be late. They had to hold 26T at Royersford to let 21E by because of the single track, and I'm like, what? I don't know how they ended up getting it in Morrisville after that, and what I always wonder was, why didn't they just stop 520 in Abrams and have a train like H82, the local, which is usually a GP38, help it up by pushing it up the hill, horseshoe curve style. I mean, I would imagine the crew of H82 wouldn't mind. Yet another donation by NASCAR Stop Motion. Wow, this guy's really being nice. Aces with second and first generation horns are cool. Oh yeah. But anyways, I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Oh man. It's like NS can't make their mind up about wanting to put too little power on mainline trains, or putting too much, as well as too much cargo on them, or too much power on locals. For example, H44. H44, oh man. They'll have two SD60s, 6943 and 6945. 6943 has an RS5T, by the way. Those two will still be on the train every day, even when they're only pulling between 1 to 30 something cars. One SD60 would be enough. Like, even a GP40 by itself could manage those loads. Like, come on. And make up your mind. You want to have too much power in your trains or too little power on your trains? Make up your mind. Yeah, I wasn't out when that was happening, but when I heard what had happened after checking the Facebook group I'm in, I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. I still to this day do not know how 520 could stall at that spot. But then again, like I said, 90 cars, one ace, not gonna work. He's donated another dollar. Thank you so much. But yeah, that was crazy, man. But yeah, that was a mess. And if it happened during COVID, I would imagine Septa Des 3 would have been flipping out, especially because that was at that time that's normally rush hour. But the Norristown line's been suspended, and the only trains that go on there right now are deadheads to keep the rails fresh. But man, if COVID-19 didn't happen, I can only imagine the look of horror on his face, because there was a similar incident that happened before. This time with CSX. C746 was running late. And for those of you that don't know, even though most train crew hours are normally 12 hours, for locals it's around 9 hours. And if they can't get a crew change, local crews will have to basically abandon the train where it is, tie it down wherever they are, and leave it overnight or whenever the next crew can get there. Or just find a nearby station and stop there, such as Lawndale with Q410. Only that wasn't a local. But anyway, C746 had been waiting almost all day during rush hour, and the crew's time was about to expire, so Septa Des 3 had no choice but to snake C746 through Norristown during the middle of rush hour, causing Septa trains to be backed up and delayed from Norristown all the way up to Mequon, which was the next control point. Oh man, that happened several years ago, but I can only imagine what of a mess, because I've heard the story from other older rail fans from the area, but man, that was a mess. I can only imagine. But thankfully, at least with C746, they always have enough power, usually 2 to 3 SD40-2s, and the train usually isn't that big. I mean, it's quite big for a local, but it's not that big, not like what's a big local? Like H79, even though that's technically not a local, but whatever. I got another donation, but it's not showing up yet. There it is. Trainman3985. Thanks for the $5. What train wreck documentary did you find hard to make emotional wise? As in, like, hard mental. Definitely, the UFA train explosion. Because a lot of the photos I found, that's why I eventually, age restricted the video, because a lot of those photos of that incident, particularly the injured children in hospital. Oh, it was too much. It was, oh man, I still get chills about that. And there is an update about that documentary, even though not much was known about that because of the Soviet Union, communism, cover everything up. I found out from a YouTuber. A YouTuber commented on the video saying an investigation found that the plant workers that increased the pressure and caused the explosion, they were high on marijuana. So that basically explains everything. But man, those photos. Jeez. See, that's why I always put a warning at the beginning of each of my videos, because those kind of stuff, especially that video, man, I don't know. It's just thinking about that incident just makes me feel a little, uneasy. Alright, enough of that sad stuff. Caleb Trains 22. What is your favorite piece of Septa equipment? This is a pretty tough question, but I would just have to go with the fours. They're simple, they're easy, and well, they're everywhere. They're reliable, and they're probably going to be still running until 2030 for all I know. NS Fan 8000. Do you think that the CSAO should sell the Southern Secondary? I have no idea what the Southern Secondary is. I guess that's like a line in Jersey. But I don't think they should sell it. Is that a Glenside sign you see in the back? Yes, it is. It's an R5 Glenside sign. It's a reproduction model, but I just stuck it in the window for giggles, just to hang out the window going like, yo, what's up, man? But unlike the other reproduction signs and even the real ones, they aren't flipped direction-wise where the letters are facing, but whatever. But yeah, that's exactly what it is. I'm surprised that it even shows up clear enough on the webcam. Will ever make a documentary on the 1946 Naperville Zephyr collision? I have not. I don't really know what that incident is, but I'll definitely look into it. Oh, great! Can't go one day without somebody mowing the lawn, especially. Well, this is normally the time people do it. I mean, I don't have a problem with people with noise, especially with lawnmowers, but if you're gonna do it like between dinner time and nearly until dark, it's just rude. Have you ever wrecked any toy trains before? I don't remember. 1361 or 5550? 1361. That's obvious because K4s are the best steam locomotives ever made. Changed my mind. I'm just kidding. We're all entitled to our opinions on best steam engines. What if Kobe Bryant was still alive? I don't know. Because Kobe Bryant, that was all over the news in our area because Kobe Bryant, he's a Philly guy. He was born and raised in Philly. Not exactly sure which suburb in Philly. Probably probably North Philly, I'd imagine. Kobe Bryant. Yeah, I wonder which part of Philly he was born in. It just says Philly. Let me check. I know I hate looking at Wikipedia, but usually they're specific. Nope, everything just says Philly, so. Yeah, literally all the sources I'm saying just say flat out Philly. They don't say like which suburb or which part of Philly. So I'm just gonna imagine you'd probably be, probably the area that my one friend Jamie lives in, because she lives in the center of Philly, like only a few minutes away from 30th Street Station. Lucky dog. But whatever. Would you like the Pennsylvania Railroad to return, or at least Penn Central? No, not Penn Central. Oh, no. Penn Central was a disaster. But as for, Pennsy? Of course. They were the standard railroad of the world, after all. Let's see. What other questions would be interesting? What are your thoughts on the AEM-7? I mean, they're good engines, don't get me wrong. I mean, they last a long life, but nothing can beat the GG1s in terms of electric power, because they lasted way longer than the AEM-7s for a start. And I remember when I was railfanning Exton once, like years ago, there were Amtrak employees working on the construction of the station, and one guy told me the GG1s were the best locomotives Amtrak had. Sure, they were big, but they were still pretty fast, especially for how old they were. And second, they were extremely reliable. They were very reliable engines. Then you had the E44. Now, here's another thing I'd like to talk about. When it comes to electric engines, like the GG1s could do almost pretty much anything as well. Like they were also adapt to freight. They could do passenger, they could do freight, they could do anything. And it makes me wonder why Conrail canceled electric freight operations, because a lot of engines, even the E44s, they could move like they were like the power of two GP40s. Like they were wicked strong. Like a normal manifest or intermodal that needs like 4 or 5 engines, you could do that with 1 or 2 E44s. They were wicked strong. And the GG1s were also pretty much similar. They were pretty much on par with E44s and E33s in terms of strength. The only reason I could only come up with is budget or something. And probably Amtrak. Eventually Amtrak didn't like freight on the corridor, which is why you only see mainly locals. And whenever they do run freight on the corridor, it's in the middle of the night. Like H86, that's usually through running on the Wilmington line between 5 and 6 a.m. Comes out of my line. I remember I used to catch it on the return from the corridor entering Abrams, but I don't see it anymore. Kind of like how I don't see K38 anymore, because that's now, it used to be a midday local, and now it runs in the middle of the night at like 10 o'clock. Like sometimes I'll be coming home from a Railfan trip from like Macungie or something, and usually as soon as I open the door, I'll hear K38 blasting through. There was even one time where after catching, I think it was 17G or 25T, I was getting food from the Wawa in Bridgeport, and soon I saw the lights turn, the crossing lights go on, and there went K38 with two SD60s, and I'm like, you son of a, you sneaky bastard. Oh well, I went straight home after that because I knew it was gonna be dead for the rest of the night. Have you ever heard of the Grapevine Vintage Railroad in Texas? Never heard of it. Also, for those of you that, like if your question doesn't get answered, please don't spam the question. That just makes me want to ignore it. Because, like I said, spam is a pet peeve of mine. Opinion on the NJT LP44s being abandoned and people going inside them. I've heard all about it and how badly vandalized those engines are. Those things are going to get scrapped. I don't care what anyone says. Those things are getting cut. Kevin Wang, do you like the E60s? Of course I do. I love the horn. I mean, they were flawed engines, mechanically. But, looks-wise, they weren't bad. I especially love the horns. Freaking the Nathan P0 1235s. Man, those things are epic. Which is a shame because they're extremely hard to find now. And even if you do find one on sale, it's probably going to be going for over $1,000. 17G is Morrisville to Enola. Yes, it is. I mean, I used to catch that train a lot back in the day. I don't catch it as much, but sometimes when I have the time, and the timing is right. I remember once I was coming home from railfanning the Philly sub for a while. After dropping some of my friends off, I still had my scan. I decided I'd fire up my scanner to the NS feed on the way home, and sure enough, I heard no, not the NS feed, the Septa feed, and sure enough, I heard 17G call Desk 3, and I was on I-76, and I was right by the Norristown exit, so I was like, you know what? That's perfect. I'll get him in Norristown, and it wasn't anything special though, but something to get on the way home. Penn Central was a disaster because of the 670 train accident. You know what? That just made me that actually reminded me of a good friend I know, Penn Central 670. Maybe that's why he named the channel that way. But definitely check out Penn Central 670. By the way, he's a pretty good guy. I like his simulations, which by the way are not based off of my work. He based them off another guy that does similar videos for flight sim videos on accidents. And to be honest, I've always wondered how it would look from a railfan aspect. And sure enough, Penn Central 670, he nailed the concept. So definitely check out his videos. They are definitely worth the watch. I've even used some of his simulations before in at least 2 of my videos. The Back Bay one and the Newark Bay one. Like seriously, check his stuff out. He's good. Anyway, will Amtrak consider on reacquiring the SDP-40F Locomotive 644? Would they ever consider? You're asking if they would ever think about bringing back the Rail Ripper? Amtrak would not want to bring back that kind of an engine. Plus, it's way too old. Oh man. Sorry, I just had to laugh, but yeah, they would never want that engine back. If you could, what do you think of the Belvedere? I can't make that name out. The Belvedere and Western Railroad, an abandoned railroad for the Pennsy and a main line for the Lehigh Valley, aka to me, the road to almost nowhere. I don't know, never heard of them. What is your opinion on the SD80 Max being sold to Progress Rail? They're probably going to get cut up. I hate to say it. Because the CP ones, I don't know if they're going into service or not, but a lot of them, because that's usually what happens to stuff that goes to leasing companies like Progress, unfortunately. Shame, too, because I've only seen 2 of the NS SD80 Max. 7207, which was DPUing on 38G, back then when it was called no, not 38G, 39G. And the only other one I saw was one I didn't expect, 7215, which was leading, I forget which train it was. I think it was 20K. Yeah. It's in my why missing video, one of my older ones from like 9/11 when I went there that day. But yeah, you can actually hear in that video, in that SD80 Mac clip, my friend TrainFan 5202 in the background going like, what? And then the engineer, the reason why I was laughing so hard was that he was doing this outside the cab. Just a slow wave. It was hilarious. That's the thing I like about NS crews. They have a really, really good sense of humor. I mean, other railroads have good humorous crews too, especially Pennsylvania Northeastern. Because when I was chasing W230 once, I heard on the scanner, "Oh great, the paparazzis are out again." And personally, I don't blame them because I know a lot of foamers went crazy when W230 ran daylight runs. It doesn't do them anymore. But the funniest thing I've ever heard on a scanner, I can actually pull up the clip. It was when 8025 was DPUing on 39G as H79. And, oh man, the exchange I heard between the crews back then was absolutely hilarious. I can give you a bit of a sneak preview of the audio. I'm not going to show the video because there's really not much to show other than cars moving. But audio-wise, trust me, when you hear what they were saying, you're going to crack up. I got to find it first because I forget when I taped it. Not that one. Was it this one? No, I don't think so. Nope. Nope. This is what happens when you have such a backlog in videos. You can't tell which is which, and I don't label my folders because I'm lazy. Is it on another one of my cards? Did I not put it on the? Might have not even put it on my external hard drive yet. Don't know. Okay, that's W2. That's another W230. That's actually my first W230 chase. What is this? Just home videos. That's my sister in the background, being annoying as usual. 302. Now that's when I caught the Virginian. Dang it! Where the hell did I put it? Come on, where is it? Not that. That's why I'm missing. That's why I'm missing videos. That's when I went around the deadline at Buckingham. Gosh, where the heck did I put the footage? Gosh, I'm going crazy trying to look for it. Oh no, here it is. I think this is it. Yeah. Come on, load up. Yeah, this is the video. Let me just say, when you hear what these crews were saying to each other, it was freaking funny as heck. I gotta find the correct timestamp though. Alright, here it is. I think this is it. Don't know if you can actually hear it. You can hear what sounds like a...
Oh, that's why there's people with cameras. Yep. Great. Sorry. They were out in force yesterday morning, too.
They're talking about 8025, by the way.
You got 3 DP engines? Yep. They trying to push the cars off the track?
Oh, man. Let me just say... that was definitely the funniest thing I ever heard while rail fanning out there with NS. Oh man. That's why I love them so much. Not only are they a better company, operation wise, sort of, but the humor that some of these crews have. Oh man, it's hilarious. There's even another thing just to prove how funny NS is. Um, see if I can find the photo. Um, not the Virginia, the Jersey Central Heritage Unit 1071, which actually went through the area this morning on H79. I don't think it was leading, but there was this one photo I took of the engine, and I don't know who the genius was that messed with the engine that day, but the stuff they put on the engine was just hilarious. It might not be on this card. Uh, you know what? I'll just tell you because a lot of rail fans will probably know what I'm talking about. But in the Jersey Central logo, the Statue of Liberty, somebody put friggin' googly eyes into the Statue of Liberty logo. Which was funny enough. And since the engine is so freaking filthy from being weathered, one of the crews literally inscripted "Wash me" on the side of the engine. Oh, jeez. Just genius. Just genius. But yeah, that's why I love NS so much. Their crew, they got a lot of good, funny crews. Kind of wish I also caught the PN W230 crew when they said the paparazzi line, because I caught that off camera. But either way, that was hilarious, and I don't blame them though, because I would get annoyed too if I was seeing a Railfan crew almost every friggin' day going after the same train. It's like, are they crazy? Because I only because I like Railfans, but if you really are gonna go after the same train almost every day, wouldn't you get bored of it? I don't know. But man, NS crews, they're great. What is the worst train crash in Septa's history? Ooh, that's a good one. There's not really much that I know of. Septa really hasn't had that bad of a safety record, but I think the worst accident they've experienced, which was actually a documentary, a wreck I was planning on covering, was an incident on the Market Frankfurt line involving the old 1940s cars before they were retired. It was in the 90s, and one of the axles broke on one of the cars, causing some of them to tip over on the bridge. I think it was either on a bridge or a tunnel, but either way, the derailment caused at least 4 or 5 deaths, and Septa was in a lot of trouble after that. But yeah, it was bad. I was going to cover it, but due to lack of footage and information, I decided I'd scrap the idea, because that's the thing with a lot of wrecks. A lot of them I do want to cover, like not so famous ones, but the problem is I end up not doing them because there's just barely any photos or information. It sucks. All I found footage-wise was just archived 6ABC reports, which 6ABC, that's my favorite news station. They mainly cover everything local. That's the thing about the media. I was thinking about studying in the media and communications feed, but considering how it's just all about selling stories and not telling the truth anymore, it's like it's not even worth it. That's why I only watch 6ABC and Fox 29, because they're local news, so they're not really that biased. Problem is, though, every other article is like almost every news story is usually shooting in North Philadelphia, shooting in North Philadelphia, shooting in Philadelphia, shooting in Jersey, shooting in Delaware. Another cop died in Delaware and stuff like that. Oh, and a teacher had sex with a child at age 18. No, seriously, that happens more often than you think. That's all the reports are these days. It just sucks. That's probably also why I don't watch TV as much anymore. I'm not usually a person that sits down and watches TV as much. I'd rather be, watching DVDs, not just this, but like old videos from like the 70s of rail fanning back then. Has that Penny fan foamer been the Penny fan foamer been posting? I don't think so. I haven't heard. I haven't seen any ridiculous heritage unit reports lately. Just people. Just the only bad reports I've seen are just the small mistakes, like the wrong symbol, wrong. Like for example, 1071 when it was on uh, 14N, people labeled the destination as Morrisville, and people were saying, "Oh, the 1071's coming back to your area," and I'm like, "No, it ain't. Not right now." I mean, it eventually did on 38G, but that comes out of Conway, and it never made it to Morrisville. So I don't know. Somebody screwed up there with the report. Strasburg Railroad or New Hope and Ivyland? Oh, this reminds me of a good story. There's a running joke with the New Hope and Ivyland how you can never mention New Hope, and with the New Hope, actually, their little joke is there's one big advantage New Hope has over Strasburg, and that's with the open air car. There's more space on the platform that you can walk around on. You can tell from my Lansdale Founders Day video when I was on the Stony Creek excursion. Yeah, there was a lot of room to maneuver on those open air cars. It was great. So yeah, as well as with the Strasburg one, I mean, you get the same open air thing as well, but it's so small, and with like 10 different, with like 20 rail fans out there for the 611 excursion, I was literally squeezed in. It was bad. Another donation by NASCAR Stop Motion Productions, $10. You're too kind, man. Shootings everywhere, I know. But anyway, with the 611 excursion, it was so cramped, and thankfully Jersey Mike, he had a solution. Near the middle of the video, when 611 is running around the train to couple up to our cars, you can hear him in the background going, "The wand," because what he had was, I think it was a GoPro, and it was literally mounted on like a stick, on a little tripod stick, so he would just hold that in between the foamers to get a shot of 611. But man, I loved riding the 611 excursion, but gosh dang it, there was barely any room to stand, so I could barely get any good angles, so most of the time I was just getting people's backs. Oh well, that's what you get. But at least with the on the return journey, though, I got some good shots. But I can understand why it was so cramped, because those tickets for that 611 excursion at Strasburg, they sold out like crazy. It was it was nuts. It was fun though. Not saying I'm complaining, but yeah. So if I had to choose between New Hope and Strasburg, does both count as an answer? Because Strasburg's got more steam, but New Hope's got that better open air car, so they're kind of equal, in my opinion. So even on regular excursions, the New Hope, the Strasburg open air car can get cramped. But yeah, hold on a sec. I gotta open the door. My cat's scratching on the door. Hold on, you little nutcase. There. I usually like to keep the door closed. Alright, we got another donation. Jeez, it's been usually the same people. Here we go. Trainman 3985. Thanks for the $15. What diesel locomotive do you find overrated, underrated? Overrated? Probably. Jeez, I'm not sure. Probably Gevos. But as for underrated, probably a lot of the older stuff. Like one really underrated class are the old GE U-boats, because they didn't really last. Because they lasted in service from the 50s onwards, and now it's very, very hard to find a U-boat in service anymore. But they're great engines. The old GE Chuggers. They still have the same turbo issues as any GE engine, but those were at least a little bit more reliable and pretty interesting, especially the U34CHs. And I'll say this right now, because Septa used to have one in Septa Blue, 4184, I think the number was, or 4154, I don't know. I forget the number, but it was in Septa Blue, and I kind of wish we kept it because that would have been a much better maintenance diesel than what we have now, like the 80, like all the genset crap. Like 80, 70. Like youth, like I can imagine with the North Wales 150, 80 was literally struggling with the consist with 40 and the coaches. But if that one Septa U-boat was on the back of that excursion, it would have had no problem with 40 in the excursion cars. So I can only imagine 40 looking back at 80 struggling with the consist. Like, the hell was the matter with you? I was pulling textile trains twice as long as this before you were even a sketch on a drawing board. Oh man. What is your favorite Canadian locomotive? One, I would have to say a lot of the GP9 RMs that Canadian National and Canadian Pacific owned for a while, because it's kind of impressive that those 1950s locomotives would still be held by a Class 1 railroad until most of them were retired by 2011. That's how 5342 and 7010 ended up on Penn Northeastern. It's absolutely amazing. The Canadian railroads, when it comes to old EMD power, they're kind of like Septa. They don't get rid of them until they just can't hold on to them anymore. Like with the Souliner, it's like the SD40-2s, especially the SD40-2Ws, and the GP9s on Canadian National and CP, particularly Canadian National. They're like the Silverliner 4s on Septa. A lot of them just won't go away, and they're just so reliable. But yeah, that's my opinion on Canadian engines. East Broadtop or New Hope? I don't want to disappoint the narrow gauge fans, but I'm gonna have to go with New Hope. I got more experience with them, but I will say this: even though East Broadtop is quite a while away from where I'm sitting right now, I'll definitely see if I can make it for their reopening when they reopen the line, because it seems like a very interesting line to Railfan photography-wise. So. Strasbourg Railroad or Durango and Silverton? I would have to go with Strasbourg. Just because, convenience of location-wise. Even though Strasbourg is still a while away, it's at least close enough. Like Lancaster County, driving around the interstates, no problem. Like 202 and stuff, no problem. It's not that bad. What is better, 611 or 4014? 4014 I feel is overrated. Sorry, I have to say that. 611 is a little bit as well, but I would really have to go with 611. Especially considering the roller bearings the engines have. That's the thing I always found interesting. When I was filming 611, I was trying to get some shots of the wheels, of the roller bearings in the drive wheels, because that's such an interesting concept. And it's kind of a shame that only a handful of engines had it, because that was like a late 1940s, 1950s technology for steam engines, and it didn't last too long. I especially found it interesting because 6200, the Pennsylvania Railroad steam turbine, it also had the same roller bearing design, but it was on a direct drive locomotive. Not counting the little crank pin that was attached for balance, if that ever existed. Because I know a lot of models have that, but I don't know if the real engine had it. But yeah, it was on a direct drive, not the classic Stevenson design other locomotives had. So, yeah. Have you ever railfanned in another state? I actually have. I've railfanned in Pennsylvania. I know I've railfanned in Pennsylvania most of the time, but I have railfanned. Sorry, my nose is bothering me. I have railfanned in Maryland before. I've railfanned in St. Denis a couple times, as well as Halthorpe. I definitely plan to go back. To Maryland at some point to meet some of my friends there. I have railfanned in Delaware, mainly the Wilmington and Western Railroad. I was gonna go for the Doodlebug excursions in February with however the hell you say it, Hawkessen, I don't know, in Delaware where they run the Doodle Bug to and from the art festival there. But that was the same day 1070 and 1068 were coming, and I hadn't got those heritage units yet, so I had to reschedule that. Plus, I can go back next year, so it's not really that big a deal compared to heritage units, which will come into PA on trains in the area and then just leave right away. Except 1070. 1070 now just won't go away on 26T and 21E. It's been back and forth, that it's not even worth going out for anymore. It did the same thing 8098 did, where it was going back and forth on the same trains. It's crazy. Fairbanks Morse Trainmaster or the SD70 Ace? I would have to go with the Ace, because Fairbanks Morse, as well as a couple other diesel manufacturers at the time, like Baldwin and even Alco, and Lima even, they just weren't really that good with with diesel locomotives. What is your thoughts on the O18A steam locomotive? Don't know what you mean by O18A. Is that like a Canadian engine? Santa Fe or Southern Pacific? I would have to go with Southern Pacific. I mean, it was stupid that SP didn't go into the intermodal business like Southern Pacific, like Santa Fe did, which is why Santa Fe lasted longer. But Santa Fe, their livery, their steam engines, that's why I would rather go with them. But anyway, what engine on the Pennsy is your favorite besides the GG1 and the steamers? Well, the Pennsy never really had like any self-made diesel locomotive. They mainly got a lot of designs from Baldwin, EMD like the E8s, and not many GE products. They didn't buy a lot of GE engines until the 60s when they got a handful of those engines. But yeah, if I had to choose a favorite diesel locomotive that's been at least used on the Pennsy, jeez, I don't think. Probably the EP. I think they're called EP20s. Whatever the Pennsy classification of the GP30 was. In particular, 2198, 2250, because that one eventually became New Hope 2198. What are my thoughts on MBTA? Excuse me. I never really railfanned MBTA before, but you know, I might railfan them in the future, and their motive power is quite interesting. Yeah. Nose, I hate you. Hold on a sec. I'm trying to look for something. I gotta get a tissue. I'll be back. My nose is killing me. I don't have a tissue box in my room, unfortunately. Alright, that should be better. Yeah, if I ever do go up in the, I think Boston is where MBTA runs, but yeah, I'll definitely railfan them in the future, because I know, my buddy TrainFan 5202 was in that area like years ago. Andrew Lieb, if UP3985 wasn't retired, do you wish to see a triple head with 844, 4014, and 3985? I would imagine Union Pacific would have tried that, because Norfolk Southern did that. They did a triple header once with 45 with their steam engines, with 4501 in the lead, 611, and 1218. And there's an interesting thing about 4501. The whistle was wearing was the same whistle it had on on its farewell run with the Southern, and it was and when they used that whistle for the triple header, it's like it was screaming, "I'm back, bitches, and I've got some friends with me too." Because after all, Norfolk and Western merged with the Southern to create Norfolk Southern, after all. Hence the name. But yeah, I remember when I first saw that triple header video with 4501, 611, and 1218, and hearing all three of those engines whistling. That was probably one of the most impressive YouTube videos I've ever saw. And I saw it a long time ago. When I first saw it as like a little kid, I was like, it was crazy. What is better, CSX or NS? NS, hands down. I have to put it out there. But yeah. 8098, 8102, or 8099. 8102, straight out, because Penzi Foamer. Run now, run. I don't get what the heck you're talking about. But anyway, if Union Pacific were allowed a steam locomotive that isn't theirs on their tracks, which one would you want and why? Well, I don't know about I don't know about if SP 4449 technically counts, but I would imagine if I wanted an engine to run on their tracks that isn't theirs, probably. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about for an answer for that question. Strasbourg did a triple header. Strasbourg do a triple header. They did a triple header in the past for a photo freight run. They had 89, 475, and 90 all in one consist. I missed out on that, unfortunately. I think I was in college when that happened, when I heard of it. But I was like, man, I wish I was there. Yeah, I mean, they might do one in the future, but maybe not. Likely not. Do you like the Amtrak Crescent or the Silver Star? I'm not sure. I haven't ridden either one. I've seen them before. Let's see. If the Pennsylvania Railroad Steam Truss, I assume he means the T1 steam locomotive truss, were to back one steam engine from the Penzies roster, what would it like to be? What would it be, and why? I would definitely like to see a J1 brought from the rails up, because it's just an interesting, contrast to the other preserved steam engines we have. Because I think the only 210-4s that have been preserved are Santa Fe's. And speaking of Santa Fe leased a few to the Penzi for their Sandusky line due to high traffic. But I don't know, it's just the look of the J1 that kind of interests me. Though I have heard one of the reasons probably that I remember K&L, they came up with a very plausible idea as to why. Hang on, got an itch. Why none of the J1s were saved. Since they weren't a sole Pennsylvania Railroad design, they were based off the C&O T1. That might have been the reason why none of the J1s were saved. And to be honest, that's the best explanation I could come up with. What is better, EMD or GE? EMD in terms of reliability, the looks of the engines. But I will say this. I've noticed that a lot of the times, a lot of EMDs tend to be more used on smaller jobs, such as the SD60s and Jeeps, like GP40s, while as GE are always used on the mainline stuff. Like, the chances of seeing something like a Trash 9 on a local, like H82, which I have seen before, it's just way too rare. But, I mean, you never know. But with EMD, they're more reliable. Their turbochargers are actually built well, and I just like the sound of them better. Like like a GE can chug, but the EMD can roar, which also makes it much easier to catch them, so they don't sneak up on you. I've had that happen a few times. Not good when you're trying to not good when you're trying to catch every train you can, especially if it's one of the heritage units. Do you wish to see a New York Central Hudson or a Niagara built from scratch? I'm not really that big of a fan of the New York Central, to be honest with you. But considering how famous the Hudson is, I'm surprised that the... I gotta take this hat off for a second. It's bugging me. I'm surprised that the projects that were to build a Hudson from the rails up have stalled in one way or another. And I'd like to know why. Budget or something. What are my thoughts on the MBTA HSP 46s? I have no idea what the heck those things are. Did you hear about the circus train crash? What? You mean this crash? The Ringling Bros derailment that happened in the 90s? Can you say my name, please? I'll donate. Bryce Altimanda. I hope I said that right. What do you think about the SPV 2000? I mean, it looks promising. It's like a modernized version of the Butter RDC, but I heard they were a disaster, so I don't know. When I said MBTA's motor power is interesting, it's just a lot of the engines they have. Like, I'm not sure if they still run Screamers or not, but I've heard they had those. They had Jeeps. You know, like a lot of their stuff they have are, you know, quite unique toward MBTA. And their cars are pretty interesting as well, even though they mainly own like Comets and stuff, which is what every railroad has. Why is the U.S. always credited with flashing light crossing lights on locomotives? You mean ditch lights? I'm not sure, because that was actually a Canadian concept. The Canadians were the ones that came up with ditch lights. As for the flashing point, because a lot of Canadian engines, particularly even the PN engines, like 5342, their ditch lights will turn on, but they don't flash. I'm not sure exactly who came up with that idea. Probably, that's probably why we were credited with them instead of Canada. But either way, it was a requirement in the 90s. That's exactly why any steam engine that goes into Canada, including the preserved Canadian engines there, all have ditch lights. Which absolutely sucks. I mean, I know it just ruins the look of the steam engine, to be honest, but you can't argue with the law. It's just like the policeman said in Thomas Breaks the Rules. The law is the law, and we can't change it. Unless you fight for it. You know, protest, that kind of stuff. But, yeah. You ever heard of the Santa Fe Blue Goose? I have heard of it. It's quite it's strange, you know. Strange looking, but it's pretty cool. Do you prefer mechanical bells or e-bells? Mechanical, hands down. I hate the sound of e-bells. They just sound awful. So, especially on crossings, I just hate them. Anyway, what other crossings? What other questions do we have? 4501, 611, 1218, triple headed to my hometown to Atlanta, Georgia. Nice. That's the thing, though. When it comes to like all these past excursions and stuff that have happened in the past, you know, and other things that went through my area, I always think to myself, I always think to myself that I started too late and I was born too late. You know, like when I watch a lot of these old videos of my area, it's really sad. But oh well, at least I'm grateful for the stuff I still get to see, traffic-wise. Even though two of those trains I used to see are gone, 60N and 61N. Gosh, my throat's getting sore. What's wrong with CSX? Well, first off, they jumped straight into PSR. They've been killing off trains left and right, laying people off. And also, they're just not that interesting. Like, you know, when you Railfan CSX, you'll just mainly get all GEVOs. It's nothing special. And also, did I mention that they derail a lot? Like, a lot? Ooh, this is an interesting request. will you do the Pennsylvania Railroad 528 boiler explosion? I actually do plan to do that in the future. I might do like something a little different by actually telling about the accident at the site of the engine. You know, like standing in front of the camera of the actual engine, because the engine is at literally not that far away. Though I don't know if they're finished with. I don't know if they finished whatever restoration they were doing on the engine, but I would definitely like to do the 520 boiler explosion. There's very little info, but I would definitely want to check them out. Definitely do that video. Can you do the Altamont Ace train wreck in Sunol, California of 2016? If there's no FRA NTSB final report, I won't do it. Will I do the Kismet collision? That's like a well-known wreck, I know, but I feel like since Ryan's already covered it and he's done a very stellar job of it, I honestly don't feel like I should, because it would just be me copying Ryan. It just wouldn't be worth it. Which is funny considering the fact that I came up with the wreck documentary idea and he came up with it, and he based his video off of my work. And also, what I like about Ryan is he'll cover wrecks I know I won't cover. Like he mainly sticks to like Western incidents, like in BNSF, like mainly with BNSF. Whilst with me, I've been mainly covering wrecks almost around the world, mainly in the U.S., particularly the East Coast, because that's where I live, and he lives in the West. So that's the thing. Naturally, when it comes to like doing documentaries more closer to home, I feel like I do a much better job on them. I mean, generally you would. I mean, that's the same thing with Pedophile would, where when it comes to like war movies, we tend to tell them better from our perspective, and when we try and do a movie like Enemy at the Gates, telling from another perspective in another country, we tend to screw it up. And before you ask, the reason why I call Hollywood Pedophile wood is because their secret child sex ring. It's really bad. Enough political crap. I don't want to talk about politics. Can you please search up a picture of an HSP-64 HSP-46? You must see its ugliness. Well, wish me luck, because I'm gonna look them up. Let me turn on the display as well, so you guys can also see it. Let me just move this thing. Come on. There we go. Computer's being slow and stuff. Oh, somebody donated €5. Peter Ironborn, thanks for the €5, which I don't know how much that is in my currency, in dollars. Happy birthday. When the Viareggio accident video, I translated you the phone calls. I'll have to see, because I've been pretty busy lately. So, I think he said HSP-46. Oh, those things? They just look like the, what are they called? The, they're kind of like the, those EMD engines that Mark has, that I forget the name of. Not the Jeeps, the MP36s, I think? They look pretty much just the same as that. They're not that bad. Not that ugly. And now the EMD F125 that Metrolink has, like these engines, these are fugly. These are really ugly. But these ones, the HSP-46, they remind me of the MP36s. They don't look that bad. To give you a reference, like, there you go, bang. You can kind of see the similarity. They're not that bad. I even think MBTA has them. Yeah, look at that. They're not that bad looking. Don't know if they're going to be replacing anything on MBTA. Probably they are, but They're not that bad. They're not that bad at all. I mean, they're not the best thing in the world, but they're not the most pretty engine in the world, but they're certainly not that ugly. But, you know, that's my opinion. And not yours. Sorry. Bad joke. The F59PH was better than the F125. Oh, yes. By a long shot. Surprised Amtrak guy covered them in a recent Engines of Amtrak video, even though he said he wouldn't cover them. I honestly don't know why he would still cover them anyway. There's not much history behind them, but whatever. Read the news. What are you talking about, the news? People say the Charger is ugly. Do you think so? I have seen them in person. The Mark ones. A few of them, actually. They're not that bad. I mean, they're not great. I don't like the. I don't really like Cummins engines. I don't see how that would work in a locomotive. But they're not as ugly as people think. But they're definitely not the. They're definitely not a favorite of mine at all. But and what's funny is they actually share this. I think they share the same traction motors as the Acela 64. Because even though you'll hear the Cummins engine throttle up, you can actually hear the same whine, like you'll hear that exact same traction motor whine as the one that you hear on the Acela 64s. It's kind of weird. At least that's what I heard when I saw the test videos of the Chargers. But that's just me. That's just me. I like the Chargers, but the MP37 376 PH-3C is the best one regarding Mark diesels. Not really. I prefer the Jeeps, the old Jeeps. I just like old school, but that's just because I like old school stuff. The older it is, the better. Hey! Sorry. Yeah, you know that? I mean, I found out about that. What's a mixed traffic engine? Oh, that's easy. You never watched Thomas and Friends? It's a locomotive that can handle both passenger trains and freight trains. We don't have much of them in the U.S., but one example is the GG1. It could do anything. Maybe that's another reason why 4935 got the nickname Blackjack, because those engines could do anything. Chargers are Acela 64s without pantographs. Yes, they are, and with Cummins engines. That's really all they are. They're a single cab Acela 64 with a Cummins diesel engine in them. That's really all they are. Same LED style, same horn, same everything else except the inside. So, like James the Red Engine. Yeah, now you got the reference. You got the reference I was going at. Cato is here. Who the heck is Cato? Time for a haircut or not now? Honestly, I don't really think I need a haircut at the moment. I definitely need to trim the beard, probably. I'll probably do that tonight before I shower, but What do you think of the duplexes in general? Very underrated. They're probably the most underrated articulated engine out there. Sure, they had problems with wheel slip, especially the T1s because of the poppet valves, but they're still good engines. Show us the cat. She's not even in the room right now. She's probably downstairs, so I can't really show her right now. Favorite diesel from Thomas and Friends? I'd have to say Paxton. Paxton, he's just a lovable doofus. Like every scene I see him in, he's funny. Like especially like in season 17, the Lost Puff scene, and Steven is like, "Well, that's a cloud." Yeah, it is. It's just the is deep South London accent. He kind of reminds me of Warrior from Tugs. Just that derpy voice and the attitude. It just makes me laugh. It's hilarious. So, what type of engines would you recommend for my fictional? Honestly don't know. Do you hate Nickel Plate Road 587 crack whistle? Crack whistle? What, the whistle cracked itself? I don't know what you mean. Do you like the E2 tank engine? They're not that bad. You have good voice impression of him. Yeah, that's the thing. Like Warrior and Paxton, their voices are pretty easy to do. It's just a South London accent with Warriors being a little deep. Like for example, but I've got to have garbage. You know, I've got to have garbage. His lordship needs garbage. We all need garbage. It's not that hard, actually, come to think of it. It's probably the easiest voice from Tugs I can do. Yes, I am a Tugs fan. So go figure. What do you think of the CP Heritage units? They aren't really Heritage units, technically. Unless you're talking, like, if you're talking about the veterans units, like the D-Day one and the Air Force units, those aren't really heritage units. They're more of veterans units, because I've only seen one of them, but I really like them, especially the D-Day unit. The D-Day unit, whatever number that is, that's my favorite. Speaking of Tugs, what's your favorite Tugs episode? It's probably I'd probably go with munitions because of excuse me. But yeah, it's probably munitions because of the pyrotechnic effects, all the effects in that episode and the plot. Like a lot of the special effects that you don't see in videos anymore. Peter Ironborn donated. Thanks for the €5. I'm an Italian guy. Hey, I'm Italian too. Well, half Italian. My father's English and my mom's Italian with a hint of Swedish. Interested in the Penzi in particular. What do you think about the shark nose and long shark nose? If you mean the Baldwin shark nose engines, I mean, they were alright, but like typical Baldwin engines. The problem, now here's the thing with Baldwin. Penzi joined in late in the diesel game with modernization. So unfortunately, a lot of their stuff came from Baldwin because of, Philly and how local they were. But Baldwin diesels were built like the steam engines. Most of them were one of a kind and no two are alike, which made them a pain in the butt to maintain, and they suffered a lot of breakdowns, which is why Baldwin eventually went out of business. What is the best diesel locomotive? In my opinion, it's probably a lot of the older EMDs, like the GP40s and ST40-2s. Those things are so reliable. Like they were a little bit more reliable than the GP9s and GP7s, which are my personal favorite in terms of engine repair. But either way, they were good engines. So if I had to choose the best diesel, I mean, I like the GP7s and GP9s, but in terms of engine build, in terms of like the prime mover itself, the 645 equipped engines like the GP40s and SD40s definitely had an advantage. What about the Centipede? Ugh, those things were a mess. They were known as BH50s on the Penzi, by the way. However, they were used on helper duty service because of their large size, which also meant a large fuel tank. So they worked pretty well for the horseshoe curve, ironically. That's why Conrail used the X Erie Lackawanna SDP 45s on the curve, which, speaking of which, I actually have a model of over here. I might as well just show it to you. It's in this box here to keep dust out. Because I took it to a friend's house to run his trains with. You've probably seen it in some of my videos. These are the engines I was talking about, the SDP-45s, and you'll notice the size of the the fuel tank. It's much bigger than other diesel locomotives. That's why Conrail usually like to use these on the curve, just like the Baldwin centipedes that the Penzi used to use, because the bigger fuel tank means you can run them back and forth for hours and always be ready at a moment's notice, which was a good idea. And looking at this engine reminds me I got to clean the wheels because they're not as shiny anymore. Oh well, I'll probably do that after I visit Henning later on, because I'm going to be getting some more. I'm going to get another engine from him, a DCC equipped SD70 Ace, which I got for $200. Now, speaking of model railroading, considering the engine I just pulled out, I might as well talk about model railroading itself. A little fun fact. The sad thing is, because we all know MTH is sadly closing their doors in the future because the owner is going to be retiring and nobody wants to step up to the plate, so the model railroading company is going to be closing their doors. The main problem is also, it's just the model railroading industry is, I hate to say it, it's a dying industry. I know I'm going to shock a lot of rail fans for saying this, but it's kind of the truth, because the thing is, back in the day, because I've talked with a lot of older rail fans when I was at Macungie, back in the day, you would only spend like $1 or $5 per freight car, so you could get like a whole manifest for as little as $30. Like, it wasn't bad. As for engines, you would only pay like $20 usually for an engine, but now it's like $20 for a simple boxcar. Like, why though? And even worse, friggin' the engines, especially because I'm going by HO prices, because I'd imagine with other scales, the prices will vary, especially O scale. O scale is ridiculous when it comes to pricing. But like HO scale engines, if it's DC, it's usually like $100 just for a little plastic engine on DC. And DCC, some engines go for as much as $200 to $300. Like, what? Just because it makes a noise? Come on, that's ridiculous. Like, and the sad thing is, I've been sticking with DC more often. That SDP-45 I just showed you, that was DC. And the thing is, and don't get me started with O scale, because O scale engines, they go for like $1,000. Yeah, $1,000. I don't get it. And a lot of sellers are blind to this. And yeah, also, you ever notice a lot of the either the sellers or the people that buy the engines are usually older people, and that's another thing, because people of my generation that are like between the ages of 13 to 20, like my age, we're all used to friggin' Train Simulator, just playing around on the computer. So more and more people are not getting interested or involved with model railroading anymore, because everybody's so used to the train simulators and playing on the computer and the Fortnites and stuff, or even doing it on their friggin' phone. It's kind of sad. I mean, I hate saying this about the hobby, because I love the hobby and I want to keep the model railroading hobby going, but it's just such a dying industry, and sadly there's nothing we can do about it. On the bright side, though, speaking of HO scale and a lot of the engines, I am actually planning to sell some of the HO stuff I got from an old guy in Maryland who's moving out because he doesn't have the space. But thankfully, when it comes to selling the engines, I will sell them at appropriate prices, like $5 for a freight car and around $20 for an engine. I'll post a link to my eBay account when I actually get the chance, when I find what I want to keep and what I want to sell, because I'm still looking through the stuff that he delivered. But either way, I am not selling an old DC engine for like $100. Like, Get the hell out of here. I know I'm capable of doing it, but I can't do that. That's ridiculous. Jeez. So, yeah, just wanted to get that rant out of the way. But that's a sad thing. I really wish something could be done. And the thing is with Henning, because a lot of the stuff I get from HO scale-wise are from Henning's trains, I know it's not his fault for the pricing. It's because he's trying to compete in a competitive market, but, you know, I just don't understand why sellers, especially on eBay, are just, I don't know. Alright, that's the end of that rant. New Hope 40 or 1361? I would have to go with 1361 because Pennsylvania Railroad K4. And I'm getting hungry, so. Not sponsored by Cheez-Its, by the way. Cheapest was a Plymouth for 15 bucks. Really? Wow. That's another thing. At the Timodium train show, I actually didn't have to pay much for the stuff I got. I got a Lehigh Valley F unit for like, I think it was like 50 bucks. I forget. And then the freight, I got a lot of freight cars too. There was this guy selling freight cars, like 5 bucks a freight car, and it was amazing. I got several, I got like, I think like 4 or 6 of them. A couple Lehigh Valley ones, Reading hoppers, Pennsy ones, even a Erie Lackawanna covered hopper. I don't even know if those existed. But yeah, that was a pretty cheesy joke. Somebody shoot me for that pun. 1361 or 3750. As much as I like 1361, I kind of like 3750 more because it's the only K4 in one piece. And it's got a pretty interesting history, as it was Warren G. Harding's campaign train and was also later his funeral train. And it wasn't meant to be preserved, believe it or not. The prototype K4, 1637, was originally supposed to be preserved, but because 1637 was in such bad condition and 3750 was in much better shape, they decided they would preserve 3750 and scrap the 1637, but they would reuse 1637's tender for 3750. So 3750's tender, it's not its real tender, it's 1637's. I wish all 3 of them were saved, 1637, 3750, and 1361, compared to the 420 other units, that 423 other K4s that didn't make it, but oh well. Do you own the Tomy engines? I own the very old stuff, but I don't use them anymore because I grew up out of them, but I might sell them. But if I do sell those, I'll definitely have the prices pretty high on them because they're quite rare and valuable. Or I might just give them to the Thomas Creator Collective because they'll use them. There's another question here that I wanted to answer. People play Plane Simulator 2 because it's cheap and easy to do. That's true. I mean, I'm guilty of it too because I have 12 and 19, and I might get TS 2020. But at the same time, you know, I still use my model railroading stuff because it's got a certain charm that'll never be outlasted. Even if people just keep overpricing engines, like crying out loud. Jeez, I lost the question that was in here that I wanted to answer, but I lost it. I don't know. It'll probably, somebody might re-ask it later on. Do you know if 601 is going to be scrapped? It is going to be scrapped. It's in storage somewhere because they're still pulling usable parts off of it, believe it or not. But I don't know. I don't know its current status. Any updates on 1361's restore? It's still a slow progress, but it is, they are still working on the engine, and it will make a comeback. Do you have any Lego trains? Used to. I don't know where they went. They're probably lost somewhere in my room at my dad's house. I enjoy model running more because you can customize engines and rolling stock easier. Heck yes. And you don't have to worry about those crappy reskins like from what's that one user? The Minecraft Conrail. And let's not speak about that user ever again. I'm only going to mention his name once and never again. Thoughts on the Pepsi cans, aka the Amtrak -8s. Pretty good engines. You won't see them on the Pennsylvanian anymore because of they don't have ACES. Siemens Charger 1402 being scrapped or repairs. If you're talking about the one being owned by a WS Dot, that thing was destroyed. Like when I saw the physical damage, like especially on the roof, I was like, holy crap. Like I knew straight out that that frame was done for. That engine was done for. I don't know if it's officially been scrapped yet, but I definitely knew there was no hope in saving it. Which also screwed Amtrak and WS Dot, because even though it was WS Dot ran it, it was Amtrak's engine, so... And the state paid for it as well, so... Yeah, that really screwed them. What railroad gives the most horn shows to you? It doesn't really depend on the railroad, horn show wise. It really depends on the crew. It really depends on the crew. Like even some CSX crews, I've ran into some. I know I praise NS for having good crew humor. There's been some good CSX crews out there that I've seen. So don't get me wrong. There's even this one where when I caught one of the very first ST-70AHs, whatever they're called, on a coal train. And one engineer decided to be funny, and he literally leaned out the window of his Gevo because the ST-70 was trailing, and he's like, "Yeah, this is what you want." it was funny, but yeah. But then again, most of my horn shows I do get quite a bit from Septa, I will say, because a lot of the crews tend to know me, and on the high-speed line, I'd imagine if I railfan that line, I'd get a lot of horn shows because a lot of the operators know me because of my mom's boyfriend, because he's probably talked about me a lot. So. And I know a couple of the operators myself when I rode that heat patrol with my mom's boyfriend. So. New Charger 1408 is being built to take 1402's place. Oh, well, that's good. At least they've got something to replace them. But who's going to pay for it? The state again? I don't even know if they have the money for it anymore considering COVID, because, Pennsylvania doesn't have any money anymore because friggin' giving all the money out to unemployment because of COVID. So, Silverliner 2 9001 going to Strasburg. I honestly don't know what that engine's planned. Same thing with the Silverliner 3 238. I mean, I do mean the slow speed line. If I ever said high speed line. Or if one CSX engineer who gives great horn shows and waves out of the window, he's often on Q031. Oh, I know. I think I know who you're talking about. I know yeah, because Q031 and Q032, I usually see those trains when I railfan CSX, whether it's on the Philly sub, Trenton sub, or even in the Baltimore area at St. Denis. But yeah, I think I know the CSX engineer you're talking about. That's on Q031 and Q032. I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah, he's a cool guy. And a lot of the Maryland guys I know that railfan in Maryland, they've told me about a lot of the good CSX. That's the thing, I'm not a fan of CSX, and while NS may have good crews as well, CSX has to have some credit too. And I think that can go with any railroad. BNSF, UP, there's some good eggs, And there's also bad eggs, on the railroads too. Because I know there was this one time on Septa, believe it or not, there was this one engineer, I never caught it on video, but my friend Jeff, Septa Railfan 1000, who was further back on the platform at Ardmore, the same day we caught the Great Valley Flyer doubleheader. Yeah, John Stone, that's the guy, John Stone. Yeah, that's the guy, the good engineer on there. Anyways, this Septa engineer, who was running a set of fours to Philly. What he first did was he flipped his markers on while still pulling into the station, which is a huge no-no on the corridor. It's actually against Amtrak policy for trains because you're supposed to use your marker lights at the end of the train, not at the front. And then he shuts his headlights off, and then alternates his ditch lights as if he's at departing at a crossing like Lansdale, and also at the same time doing this out the cab window, the L sign, and I'm like, what? And then the epilogue, the best part was, he gets to Philly, another crewman calls out that he left his markers on, and he says this on the scanner. Yeah, I just ruined some shots for a lot of people. And me and all my friends that were there, Septa Railfan 1000, Tony's Amtrak train videos, and Train 55202, we were standing there in shock, like, no way. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. That was disgusting. I don't know if it's the same because there is because he was known as the L sign guy because other rail fans on Septa have run into him. I don't know if it was the same guy that got into my face once when I was in Suburban saying you can't be on the station without Septa permission, which I never filmed. I mean, it was on video, but I edited it out because I don't think he works with Septa anymore. My mom's boyfriend, he even said he doesn't like being filmed himself. But the way he acted with the L sign and stuff when I told him that, he was like, that is so unprofessional. And it is. You should never do that. It's the equivalent of the engineers that will occasionally, flip you off while rail fanning. I hate those kind of people. Like, if you're going to be a jerk, if you don't like rail fans, just ignore them, Don't flip them off. Don't do random stuff with the cab or on the engine. Just ignore them. So what? We get that you're there for the job, for the money, and not for the job, but you don't need to be a douche about it. Anyway, and you do engines of Septa diesels. That's actually the next episode, the next series of episodes planned. Having trouble attaining footage and video photos at the moment. That's why it's been on hold for months now. I know you guys are waiting so patiently for it, and I appreciate that. It's just, I've been having difficulties getting footage and stuff, especially from this guy named John, where I got the Roslyn collision photos. He hasn't responded to my emails yet. Would I like to see 4040 and 49 and 3751 travel to PA? I would love that, but I know that's never going to happen. Never going to happen. Hold on a sec. Oh my gosh. I hope I'm not getting a cold. Because that would really, really piss me off. Alright. 1522. First go 1522 or 5550. Definitely 5550. Josh Brony. Have you ever heard of Miss Auburn Blossom? Also known as the Wilsoner. Of course I do. He was one of the main inspirations to make a YouTube channel. I was always fascinated by his stuff. But yeah, he was one of the. I remember I used to watch his videos from the early 2000s, like 2007. Memories, man. Back when YouTube was actually worth going to, and not a piece of crap. But there was a fourth accident on Cajon Pass. Are you sure you're not talking about that time an oil tank where a couple cars jumped the track because of a switch frog and nothing really happened? Let me see, because I don't know what this guy might be talking about. Oh shoot! News article, Victor Valley News. Accident. Oh, that's probably a car accident. Yeah, durr. me see. Yeah, it doesn't look like anything happened, so it's definitely, it probably was that 2018 incident where a couple cars jumped the track from the Switch Frog. I'll definitely not cover that in the as a documentary because it's way too recent, and second of all, there's really no point in covering it. So, but yeah. Hold on, let me check something. Okay, I still got time. So, do I know Sid's Trains? I have no idea who that is. Name sounds familiar, but I don't know. Is Cajon Pass located in San Bernardino, California? I think it's the San Bernardino area, but yeah. Ooh, excuse me. Anyway, what else could I talk about? Did you know the GP9 had a B unit too? Yeah, it's called the GP9B. It's kind of like the GP60. It looks kind of like this GP60Bs that Santa Fe had, and I think BNSF uses a few of them, but very rarely. Kind of like the GP60Ms. Jaden Animations. I think I do, but I'm not so sure. What's gonna happen to 47 after hitting that parked CSX train? The one involved in Case, you mean? That one's definitely gonna be scrapped, but knowing Amtrak, they've had a surplus of wrecked and burned P-42s just sitting in areas like Beachport, whatever the yards are, just rusting away. Same with 66, but they've only started taking 66 apart because they used the nose of that heritage unit to fix up another heritage unit, 145, which was, after being put back into service, was put on the Pennsylvanian. But either way, yeah, it's probably gonna sit there for like 10 or something years until they finally cut it up, knowing Amtrak, but whatever. You like the Santa Fe? I love the Santa Fe. Which runaway shocked me the most from Cajon Pass? Probably, I know the 1996 one was bad, but I was kind of surprised from the 1989 one because of how destroyed the cab was. Like with the 1996 one, I can understand why the engineer survived that one because the cab was that engine was relatively intact. Whilst at the leader on that train, on the 1989 one, that engine was like totally destroyed, and somehow, and you telling me the crew, the engineer survived that with several injuries? Crazy. But I guess that's what happens when you build an engine that's actually built with quality, with EMD. Still impresses me today how he survived. God bless him. He probably still has nightmares about that accident. And it wasn't even his fault. That's the worst part. What do I think of the Leslie RS2M horn? Sounds pretty similar to the S2M. There's not much to talk about that horn. But it's good. I like it. Big Firework reminds you of something in the air from Thomas and Friends. It kind of does, but I really don't see the connection too much. Heard of the terrible condition the Thomas models are in Drayton Manor? I have heard about that. It's kind of sad. But, what are you gonna do? So, anyway. Love your picture intro to this live feed. It looks cute. Where'd you get it from? It's just a fan pic of Azrael Dreamer from Undertale that I found. I thought it would be fitting to use it in the thumbnail for the video. Anyway, can we see your cat? She's downstairs right now. I don't feel like dragging her up here. The books were better than the show. I liked both. I don't really care. FP7s, do I like? Yeah, I like them. Who doesn't love old EMD car body diesels like the F units and the E units? Who doesn't? How would you feel if the... Alright, this is going to be the last question. This is going to be... I'm going to take a couple more questions and I'm going to have to wrap it up. How would you feel if the Silverliner 4s were retired? I would definitely miss them. It wouldn't feel... Septa wouldn't feel the same, I would think. But, only one technically has been retired. Ex-Reading Silverliner 4 9020, which was wrecked in a collision near North Wales. It was totally destroyed. That's the only one that's been retired and scrapped. I think it was in 1980 when it happened, because it still had the old Reading 9000 number. But oh well, it was just a single unit. Did not know you were in Lower Providence. Technically, yeah. I mean, I grew up in the Lower Providence area. It's only like a 5-minute drive. But where I live right now, I'm like in this suburb called... It's really... Technically, I'm like 5 minutes away from Norristown, but the address is still registered under Norristown for whatever reason, even though I don't live in Norristown itself. But with Norristown, literally, it's just a drive down. It's literally like a 5-minute ride down Main Street, and I'm right into the Main Street Septa station and eventually the Norristown Transportation Center. And to make myself even closer to trains, let's just also say Abrams Yard in King of Prussia, just across the river. So I would hear those GP. So if you ever see those video clips of HMO1 shifting cars, trust me, I hear those Jeeps throttling up and down, shifting cars all day. If I'm ever outside mowing the lawn, for example, it's crazy. So. If you could restore any train engine, what would you pick? Probably it'd have to be something Penzi, I would imagine, like 3750 or even the Mountain unit, the M1B 6755, because it'd be an interesting contrast, I'd imagine, and it's also kind of an underrated steam engine. Did I saw a tornado? No, never. Because where I live in the east coast of PA, we barely get any tornadoes, and any tornadoes that do hit Pennsylvania, they tend to occur in Lancaster County, because Lancaster County, it's all usually flat farmland, and even the tornadoes they get are usually F-zeros. Which reminds me of an interesting story. There was a hurricane that hit our area in the 70s, 1972, which was pretty bad. It caused a local bridge near my dad's current house to be destroyed. And the flooding was almost exactly the same as Hurricane Irene. In Strasburg and Lancaster County, they got the worst of it. And Strasburg Yard ended up being a mess with freight cars being thrown around from the floodwaters. 89 was over there and submerged in several feet of water. But the funny thing is, unlike the freight cars in the yard, like the old wooden stuff, 89 sat where it was on the yard and didn't budge. Not even the tender moved. But of course the firebox was completely drenched, so they had to, drain it out. But either way, even though all the freight cars were all over the place in the yard from the floodwaters, 89 just sat where it was and didn't move. That's one advantage of having a steam engine, it'll just, or locomotives in general, but definitely steam engines because of how heavy they are. So, well, the stream is already over I've already been streaming for about 2.5 hours, so I'm gonna be wrapping it up for now because I'm gonna be doing some more stuff at home. But for those that have been able to tune in, thank you so much. I won't be doing like another stream for a while, but either way, Thank you so much for the birthday wishes. Thanks for those that have donated. Um, donated to the stream. Uh, but just seriously, thank you all for coming. Thanks for the wishes. Thanks for also subscribing to the channel. Like 60K subscribers. We're almost there to the goal of 100,000 subscribers. That's my big goal, to get that play button. But either way, thanks for watching. And if you didn't get your questions that you were trying to answer, that you wanted me to answer, don't worry. You'll get a chance in the future. So that's it. I gotta get going, so I'll see you later.